Terry Beard to say the prayer, Mr. Gerald Walker to say the pledge, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in praying the Lord's Prayer.
Our Father, Lord of heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Amen. Okay, we'll go into number 3, the fifth bank of bids for Cameron Parish, Bill Mason Shoreline Stabilization Project 2189153. I think they got some good news for us.
Well, that just changed and all that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yep.
Well, good morning. Like we said a couple of weeks ago when we last met with y'all, we went out for bids. We took bids on Tuesday for the Rutherford Beach portion of the shoreline stabilization, the Go Mesa project. We have to, what you have in front of you there are 2 options, which we need as a police jury to accept 1 or 2 of the 2 options, and then the winning bidder will be determined off of your decision off of that. So the first option is a base bid, which covers 3 breakwaters using the 440-pound class limestone, $5,214,170. The second option is to accept an alternate, which would increase it from 440-pound class limestone to 1,000 class limestone, and that price is $5,521,970. So there's an increase of $307,800. So as we discussed last time, design-wise, there's no problem. It's perfectly designed fine with the 440. What the 1,000 gives you is probably a greater factor of safety. I think that you got 440 at Holly Beach, and I think what's going on up over at Rockefeller is 1,000, just to give you a comparison of what's going on right now. So both of these options do fall within our budget of what we originally came with, which is very good because I know we had a lot of questions about rock pricing and stuff. So we're very pleased to have this. So the question comes to you is which option would you like, because that will then in turn determine who our bidder is.
So you're saying it's still in the budget?
Yes, sir. Both options.
Both options are
Yeah.
still in the budget?
Yes, sir. So what you basically have is you get, of your pool of money, you can either spend you can do the increase of $307,800 to go to 1,000 stone and spend that money at Rutherford, or you could choose to, that you're good with the 440 design and not take the alternate and keep that.
And that's how many miles it's gonna do again?
It's
4,500 feet.
4,500 feet, so it's not even a mile.
Not even a mile.
No, these are in Rutherford. It's 3 breakwaters in Rutherford.
Supposed to be a mile.
Well, because that might be the 4th one. And the 4th one, when we came in here, we said we were going to put that as an alternate. We put 3 original.
John's throwing in, the place in Johnson Biden. That little, Florida City,
Little Florida?
Little Florida. Y'all
No, we had 2.
Y'all said we was gonna get 2 miles with this.
Okay. So the first part is 3 breakwaters.
Big rocks.
The first one is 3 breakwaters at Rutherford, with a possible going in for a 4th, depending on where the money's coming in. Then we also have work at our next one, which I want to discuss in a second, which will be Long Beach. Little Florida was going to be bid out originally as an alternate. We did not include that as an alternate on this one because it was too much. We may include it in with the Long Beach one, but that's going to be the next phase of bidding that we're going to put
How
out for
long is
everybody.
Long Beach?
It's 2 breakwaters.
3,000. So we get 7,000, 8,000.
For with this money, or are you talking about total?
The whole thing.
Probably, might get to 9. I think we can squeeze in the,
With the price that we're getting today, it's $11.60 per linear feet.
Mile in Rutherford Beach.
to get that extra breakwater, yeah, okay. So, let me then fast forward to the next topic of discussion, so it'll help with this. So right now, we have a base bid for 3 breakwaters at Rutherford Beach, which is the pricing you're seeing in front of you, okay? That was the base bid that we went in with, and the alternate was just to go up with the stone. The next part will be to go get get Long Beach bid out, which would be 2 breakwaters on that one. Based on the unit pricing that we have received from the contractors, we're able then to see, once we get Long Beach pricing in, how much money we have left over, and then we can look at adding on the 4th breakwater at Rutherford Beach, because we'll kind of already know what that pricing is going to be. What I don't know right now is what the bids will come in on Long Beach, so I've got to get that bid out first. I've got to do it that process to best be able to use your money and be able to fit within the budgetary restraints what we've got here.
You couldn't bid both of them together.
We could have maybe, but we wanted to see, and this is what we talked about at the last police jury meeting, is to get the first section in so we know what it is, because we did not know what that rock was going to be. If I would have bid both of them together, we chanced the fact the rock would have come in considerably higher than it was now, because we have seen pricing at other locations in Louisiana where the rock pricing was considerably higher than what we got right now. And that would have just thrown everything out. So we had to break it, do one section at a time. We are ready right now for Long Beach to go ahead and get, with a couple of adjustments to some bid documents, to go ahead and put that out for bid, go advertise it and put it out for bid beginning part of next year and have that done. Once that pricing comes in, we'll know what these 3 at Rutherford are, what the 2 at Long Beach are. We'll see how much money we have left over. And the first thing to do is, if we have enough money, is to go ahead and add that extra breakwater at Rutherford.
Okay.
So it's done, and it's a little chopped up in a sense, but some of it is because it's been such an unknown with rock pricing that, I mean, we've been carrying from $70 a ton, $70 a ton all the way to $100 plus a ton. That's what we've seen. Obviously, you go to 100 plus a ton, our numbers right here at Rutherford are even higher than we're looking at right now, which would have taken out some of the options we may have had in some other areas.
And the Go Mesa funds are roughly 10 million, so if you look at what you have here,
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You're back to the rock side.
Yes, sir.
Are there any detriments to larger versus smaller? Have you had any issues at the one you did Ranch Near versus the rocks at Holly Beach? I know some of those rocks end up on the beach. It could be due to smaller size. I know we're about the weight. Those rocks actually sink more if they were larger rocks.
the larger rocks will actually have more airspace, so it'll be less dense and less likely to sink and less likely to roll. So smaller, they can pack them in tighter, and it'll sink faster, and you have the ability for it to roll if you have a storm come in.
That's why I prefer the big rock.
So what we're looking at this morning is which one we want to accept on the bid wise, is option 1 or option 2.
Yes, sir.
Am I right? We got to vote on that to proceed to go any further.
Yes, sir.
And your recommendation is?
Larger stone.
Larger, that's,
Yeah.
Yes,
The
sir.
440 will meet the design requirements we're trying to do.
okay.
You know, 1,000 is just it's a larger stone, slightly better product, but we wanted to make sure too, the reason we also broke that up, another one was for the pricing of the stone as well. We were happy the way it came in, so it gives you an opportunity to go to that.
And if we could go with option 2, we still in the budget, you said, and it's $307,000 more to go with the bigger stone.
Yes, sir.
It's still in the budget.
That's not a lot of money when you're talking about $5 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Insurance policy.
Just soon go go to the better product.
I agree with that.
I'm good.
Point of information, Mr. President, point of information. Could you clarify, originally on Rutherford Beach, it was called for 1.2 miles of stone, roughly 6,000 plus feet. Now it's 4,000 feet? Could you clarify that, please?
How many feet, Kelly?
We have permitted for 6,000 feet.
Okay.
Based upon the priority list we have and the funds that are available, we will come back to finish the 1.2 miles after we bid out Long Beach.
Okay. All right,
Hold
I'm
on.
good with that. You wanna move it to the vote meeting?
It's on there.
It's on the agenda for y'all's consideration this afternoon.
All right, good deal. All right,
Well, without really knowing if you're, which option you're gonna do, I can't really tell you which bidder then. There's kind of a reason for
I
that.
think we'll go with option two. I think
We'll go with option two.
I think that's gonna be part of the, we'll get that motion together for you this afternoon, that way those, they'll be announced at the
Yeah.
time.
What option two, just give them whatever you need on option.
Okay. So then read.
We're gonna have that, it'll be part of the motion that they'll read,
Okay.
and, cause you have the contractor's names on the bid list,
Mhm.
and that way they'll have it, you know,
You'll see what I mean when you see it. I mean, there's nothing funny about it, it's just making sure that we gotta go through the legal channels of what we accept, to then accept the bidder based on your decision on all of it, so.
Good deal.
So, but no, we were very happy with that. So then, like I said, the next phase for us will be now to get Long Beach prepared for bid documents. Go ahead and get that advertised, and get that bid out. Got the holidays coming up, it's a funny time. It's not a good time really to be advertising, because you'll waste 2 advertising periods in the middle of the holidays, and a lot of people aren't really looking at it. So we'll probably extend a little more into January. And then with the anticipation then of having it bid either by the end of January, beginning of February. So probably be your February police jury meeting, we'll be back in front of you, with who the bidder is, so we can proceed with that one and see where we are budget-wise at that point.
Do you need authorization to bid?
Y'all gave us that last time to bid all the parts of it. We just decided instead of doing it all in one swoop, just, you know, kind of we said we break it up. So I don't need a vote on that.
One quick question, construction estimation.
Well, right, so right now, we're gonna do, the other part of what we're gonna do is on this one, based on the contractor that you approved this afternoon, we will proceed with getting contracts out to them, which actually helps us during the holiday season. We get a little back and forth with the contractor, get all that done, and then go ahead and get them started. I'd like to get them started right away in January, once we get a contract locked in with them. So they can go ahead.
How far behind with Long Beach bid?
It will probably accept bids end of January, beginning of February, depending on how the calendar, I mean, January's a long month, you gotta have 25 days worth of advertisement period. So maybe we'll get the bid in right at the very end of January, if not the very beginning of February. Put in front of you, get it voted. I'm not sure if y'all have set your February board meeting, police jury meeting as of yet. So I think I'll probably do that in January. So whenever that first meeting is, we plan on being ready to come in here and present that one to you as well, so we can get that one contracted out as well.
You expect to be up same time period, maybe a month behind?
Yeah, probably a month or 2 behind on contract. It normally takes you about a 30-day process to get the contracting back and forth, get it all done. Sometimes it can be done a little faster, it depends on, you know, it'll be basically the same contract we're doing for this one, we'll use there, but if it's a different contractor, you know, they,
Well, you know, if you get too far in the spring, your construction time's gonna be all over the place.
I know, that's why we're trying to get these done as quickly as possible. We got cognizant that I've got holidays and advertising during that 4th period. I mean, we had a lot of interest in this originally, and we ended up getting 3 bidders, so that, we were happy with that. You know, and I want to be able to get the same, it helps you out too, to make sure you got the right pricing, so.
Hopefully you can keep the same contractor, and that way it won't have that extra mow and demo.
No. That's subject to a public bid, but, you know, you never know. You never know. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank y'all very much. I'll give all the information to Daryl for y'all for this afternoon, so you can take a look at it. And, again, we appreciate the opportunity to work on it. Hope y'all have a Merry Christmas.
You
Have a good New Year.
Thank you very much.
And go Tigers, I guess we can say that publicly.
Okay, let's go to number 4, Mr. Sonny McGee, the food truck ordinance.
And we should have something prepared. Jenny, you wanna speak on that at all, or not?
But we've sent one over there. The first revision, all we did was take off one of the festivals that we no longer had. And I think we changed the name of the fishing festival in here. In fact, we just took off one we no longer had. Then we have the temporary food service vendors can sell food at these fairs and festivals if they comply with the sanitary code if they get a permit first. And that, they don't have to be a nonprofit. If they're at the fair or festivals, okay. We already have not-for-profit vendors at those festivals. We took out the provision that was put in kind of to cover Gigi's restaurant when that was here in Cameron. It said you can have one there. Now, we've already had people who are going to be building another place come in and ask us about getting a temporary permit. So we took that one out. You may want to put it back in.
We,
And you may want to put it parish-wide.
we want to stay with the Hollow Beach one only right now, because I got a feeling we're going to visit this again and discuss it again
Okay.
with the other changes. So as far as I'm understanding about Hollow Beach, the only thing we did was allow trucks that were not tied to a business in Cameron to come to Hollow Beach for profit to sell food, correct?
That's temporary.
Temporary,
And
as
then
soon as
see
we
how it
have,
works, then they pass.
as soon as we have businesses in Hollow Beach that would be affected by this truck, we can always come back to the table and take it out. Take it out.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's good with me.
Okay. So we'll need to advertise once y'all approve that at the voting meeting. We'll have to advertise.
To advertise,
Everybody good with that? With the Holly Beach area, then once we see what's going on, and we'll go from there. Okay, and that's on the vote, Pete?
Yes, sir.
It's there.
All right, good deal. Anybody got any more questions on that? Good. All right, number 5, one more time, Mr. Sonny McGee, budget for the beachfront development district number 1.
Yeah, our beachfront development committees are actually becoming quite active. There's been a lot of expenses, putting out trash bins and signs and different things going on. And the budget that they have is pretty small. I think it's like 6,000. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'd like to bump that budget up to around 20,000.
That comes from the state.
Well,
We don't give the beach,
but we can.
we can, but we never did.
Yeah. And I'm asking that we, well, $6,000 not gonna get you much done, okay? I would like to see that budget be reviewed, and if we can, make some funding up for the jury. We should have a little bit of money coming in, we've got a lot more activity on the beach due to people staying in Hollow Beach and campers and things of that nature, a lot of people in the area. So we have some more money coming in, maybe we can earmark a little bit of that money for the beach district.
You have could you give us a copy of their budget? The beachfront you have?
Yes, well, we have our operating budget and it is based off the state money that we get, as Davey mentioned. But the beachfront districts have some funds that have accumulated over the years that they didn't use, and that's what Rutherford Beach used when they built their pavilion and had their parking lot done. They had roughly about $180-something thousand that accumulated, so that's what they used. It's still available for Holly Beach and Johnson Bayou beaches because, and we'll have the cash balance. That's something that's kind of reconciled in-house on a spreadsheet. It's not reflected in the budget, but we do know what that number is. And we can get that to you. So they do have their own money available to make improvements.
Yeah, and what happened over the years, back when that money was in fact, it was allocated by the police jury toward each beachfront district. This was before the storm. And beachfront District 1, they spent a lot of their money on different things. And they have, and as Katie said, we'll get those figures for you, how much they each have accumulated at this point. Beachfront District 1 doesn't have as much as Beachfront District 2. You know, and that's basically.
Yeah, I can get that to you. I think we have a report on our computer. We can tell you.
Yeah, you'll have it for this afternoon.
Okay.
I'll put it for you, for around $20,000, that's the reason that number came out. So we figured we're gonna be spending at least that much. If we're gonna do anything at all, we have to have some funding to do it.
what if there's money out there?
Yeah, I mean, you
If there's money
can,
in the budget, we'll find out, whatever's in the bank.
That won't be none of this budget, but there'll be some, there's money.
The money that's in the budget, as Katie can attest to, is comes from the house tax dedications, and that's what they both operate on.
right, so you can use your
Actually
surplus.
comes from the tourist bureau. They
Yes.
give $15,000, they give us each $5,000 a year.
Get us that information and everything, and, we'll look at it. We can always amend the budget if we got to,
And
if
we
it's
just put it on the
something.
next meeting, we can, but so we get it.
Yes.
But we want to be thinking about it.
Okay, y'all gonna get us that for the Stephanie meeting?
Yes.
Sir.
Sounds great. Any more questions on that, Carol, tonight? Good to go? All right, who's the number 6, Miss Emily Marks, position for Branchmere Road Crew.
Yes, sir. I come to y'all to ask for us to go out for advertisement possibly. We had an employee that no longer works for us. And this is also the barn that we house the spray truck. So once grass season starts, we're gonna be down to 2 employees there.
So you.
With him quitting, we have 3 right now. Yeah, we have 3 right now, because we have, this barn normally has 4, but one of the guys quit. The one I hired to take the foreman's place, not, the laborer hired to take the foreman's position or whatever, he actually quit. And he's been gone almost 2 weeks now.
Okay, so you wanna advertise or look at hiring?
Yes, sir.
Aren't you looking at hiring some more after the first of the year?
That was brought up in the, when we did the budget meeting, and I think Katie has suggested in January putting a committee together and discuss to go further out. Yes,
I
sir.
think, Hackberry may be needing somebody over there too right now.
Yes, sir.
I think,
And I don't know,
in the short term, we probably could authorize her to replace that in, and then maybe in January, we can get together on the whole hanker. Maybe we need to look at, we're gonna be looking at our office staff, personnel, that's gonna need to be replaced, and, I mean, there's a lot of employees that's don't. I'd like to do it just a review of the whole parish right in January, and
What do we base the numbers on for the people involved?
we don't. Just we didn't retire after we had a bunch. We had 46 and we're down to 31 with me.
But don't you have to, like if you have people out on the crew, don't you have to have more than one, you kind of require
You're supposed to have at least one person there.
one?
Yeah. That way in case there's an emergency and then you call in help from another board. I was gonna suggest also because of the holidays, I just didn't wanna not bring it to y'all's attention that he did quit with the holidays and stuff. I would say maybe wait till January and then do the advertisement, cause they're not cutting grass right now, you know,
We can give you the
we could get by.
To go out and look, and you can start advertising and,
Advertise for applications.
yeah,
Okay.
get what you
You
gotta
gotta
do.
do it first, we find out the number, then you can go out and hire. You have applications in hand.
I'm good with that. Y'all good with that?
A lot for advertising, but
Is that, everybody good with that? Okay, before we review the agenda, I got a couple things. I got a card from Monique Boulet. Not here?
Yeah, she's not here.
Not here yet? Okay, but we'll skip that. Before we go any further, the jury has a couple presentations to make to a couple of our guys that's getting off, and we'd like to give them a little something here and recognize them for their years of service and the good thing they've done for the jury and for the parish, and they're gonna be missed, really missed, a couple of them, and we wanna give them a couple things here. First one, he's been on here, I think, 16 years. He's been the president for 2007, 2012, and 2013, and the vice president 2006, 2011, 2018, and 2019. Done a great job, and me and him bumped heads when I first got on here. We argued and fought a little bit here and there, but come to find out he's done a great job and everything. I'd like to give this to Mr. Darrell Farr. I got another one. Got on the same time I did. We've been on there 8 years together. And he's done a great job, and he's gonna really be missed. He just a great fella and done a lot of things for the community, and everybody liked him. I never heard no bad words. I heard bad words about Darryl, but never heard bad words about that guy. And he's really been great, so we're gonna miss him too, because it's been a great 8 years serving with both of these guys. I mean, it's really got along, everybody got along, not a lot of fighting. We all kind of smoothed along and did a lot of great things. This one goes to Mr. Terry Beard.
Gentlemen, can I get a picture of the three of y'all?
We're not done.
One more.
We're not-
Everybody, when you're done.
Okay, yeah. This other guy, he got on here, been on here 4 years, and he was rough. Our guy, he was rough, but he did a great job. He really worked hard for his community. I mean, you can't ask for a better fellow. What he did down here was at every meeting, at the beach, he did a lot of great things.
Yes.
And they're gonna miss him down there, because how many people who retired and goes to all the meetings like he does? Really done good. That's Mr. David Dodd.
Yes.
Y'all come out.
Okay, and then can I get just the, just the guy from the flags? And Joe. Oh, well, not. Yeah, that's, I tell you what, y'all got one little step that way. I tried to send you on the read, it was pretty good. All right. Should know about this, so you're we'll see what this is. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Let's review our agenda.
What was going on?
Gentlemen, I'm gonna have a request for an add-on, if you don't mind. It's just a project amendment, CDBG project amendment for our Rockefeller Shoreline Protection Project. When CPRA gave us their surplus funds at $5 million, we have to amend the application to include those funds. So it's gonna be an add-on, President authority to sign the project amendment. You guys will allow it.
Marine also, I don't know, explain that to, I've heard anything about that.
This is from the construction of the Venture Global,
Okay.
from the jetty pier being shut down. So they will be building another RV park that's gonna be located, on Davis Road, but more at the front end. It's gonna consist of a boat launch, fueling station, marina, restaurant, parking,
It's our Cameron
So that's
Amenities
it.
project.
and
Yeah.
What about the ferry and all that? Is that gonna be something they're gonna maintain?
The water taxi?
Yeah.
Yes, they're going to provide funds for it.
So, do they have like some kind of deal, they guarantee they're gonna keep that up?
Yes, we have a CEA with them. They are gonna fund 100% of the water taxi as long as we have it. And they're going to donate the finished project, the facility. We refer to it as the Cameron Amenities Project right now. They're building it and they're gonna donate it to us. So then, and they're gonna pay the 100% of the lease payments that are associated with it. But we're gonna be we have the ground lease.
And I guess what I'm asking more is the operational funding, after we got
After we have it, we'll be responsible for it, but we want to sublease everything and identify an operator to come in and run the restaurant and the RV park and the marina. But ultimately, if we don't have an operator, it's
But
on
not,
us.
not the taxi.
Okay.
Yes,
So basically, the restaurant and hopefully RV park will take care of all the expenses of the taxing of the people.
correct. Right now, we are in the process of having focus groups to test out the names of the Cameron Amenities Project. Once we narrow it down to 3, we're gonna come back to the jury with a recommendation to name the facility. Once you name it, then we're gonna start marketing and issuing requests for proposals to identify an operator. And there's some discussion on if we should try to procure an operator for the entire facility, or if we should have a marina operator, a RV camping operator, a restaurant operator, a market operator. But we're contracted with Cameron Answers, and they're doing all the research for us, and they're reaching out, making the connections and seeing what type of people would be interested in both options. But that will all come to the jury. Probably we're looking at by May of 2020, we're gonna have to try and identify an operator. And construction's set to begin on the entire facility as of right now in May 2020. That's what they anticipate breaking ground.
That's what groundbreaking is May 2020.
Yes. We want to have an operator identified before they start construction, because they're just essentially building like a shell, kind of like a spec house, and they're going to let the operator customize everything on the inside. There's a budget allocated for design and furniture, equipment, everything.
What's this money,
This is actually for reauthorization. They actually permitted it prior and they never did the work, so he's just reapplying for it. It's a part of a mitigation bank for projects that impact wetlands, brackish marsh projects, so they would be able to enter into that bank. Venture Global, that's at the PHI facility, the existing facility now. They're gonna use it for their, to transport the workers, to the terminal site. They have existing facilities already there, so. They probably have to, they may be expanding the parking lot.
It's gotta be a parking lot.
Yeah, because they're doing a, because they already have the facility's pretty much developed. I'm assuming that's just what it is, because they're saying used for bus parking, maintenance facility, just support.
Additional parking.
Right.
I have a question, Mr. Sun. Do you have the proposed statute in front of you? Because I can give it to you. So, I wanted to know if you intended to adopt section 70, which applies to nonprofits in other areas of the parish.
Is that what we already have?
Yeah, we already had it in
Yes,
place.
but, you know, we do need to change that. I was talking to Kara this morning, and it says something there for nonprofit organizations. It needs to be for nonprofit organization or on behalf of nonprofit organizations, because we have the pizza people who come and sell the pizza for the school.
That's correct.
And they're not a nonprofit corporation, but they're doing it for the benefit of the
Yeah,
school,
they're
which is
giving their
nonprofit.
percentage to the school.
So we would need to add that for the benefit, either nonprofit or for the benefit of nonprofit.
Well, we talked about earlier that we're probably gonna come back to this in January
Yeah,
and keep the Halloween separate so we can go ahead and approve that one and they can go out advertise, so that we maybe have somebody for summer. But we'll probably get that again in January or February, whenever.
But we need to change the one for the Grand Lake area, get that on there, showing, yeah,
So-
we need to do that now.
Because
Can we do
really,
that now?
Yeah.
I just didn't
really,
want to-
I'm worried about, if you really read that, Mr. Gaddis is not a nonprofit.
Right.
So I think that would cover the,
Can we change that and still vote on it today?
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to hold it back.
That way they can continue doing that little pizza thing up there for school. Okay.
Carol, what's rapid drainage district for?
Or Creo,
What lateral are they cleaning?
D and E, I can show you. Yes, I can show you.
Okay,
Oh,
you care?
yeah.
Anybody got any more questions about the agenda? Everybody good about the agenda? Okay,
yes.
we're gonna get Miss Monique Goulet to come up here and give us a little talk about herself.
Hi,
All right.
my name is Monique Boulay. Thank you for having me. I'm with the Acadiana Planning Commission. Excuse me. The Acadiana Planning Commission is going to represent Region 5 in the Louisiana Watershed Initiative, including 16 parishes, encompassing the Teche, the Vermilion, and the Mermentau Basins. And so I came here today just to introduce you to the commission. We work, I guess MCOW is the commission you typically work with. There are 8 planning districts, so our original form and function is a planning district. However, what we are, we have about 17 employees, a couple of engineers, planners, GIS mappers, and technical staff members. And we provide the technical staff for the planning district, for the 6 parish MPO, for an 9 parish, Opportunity Zone Initiative, and now for the 16 parish Watershed Initiative. So our staff really is not singular to certain parishes. Excuse me. The Watershed Initiative the state has put together is going to, the first step is going to be to put together a steering committee, and each parish has one representative, and I believe Scooter Trostplayer is your representative, which we're very excited about because, as you know, he brings a great deal of knowledge. The steering committee will work for a year to set up a coalition. What that coalition looks like, we don't know yet. We don't have much guidance from the state for that. It will be up to the steering committee, and I think the state will be watching us to identify best practices, to see what works well with these coalitions. What the function of the coalition will be, that also is unclear. They are trying to set up some kind of system so that we start making data-driven decisions with our investments in watersheds. They will be spending, right now they're negotiating, DOTD is negotiating a contract to model all 3 watersheds. It's a $20 million contract. On Tuesday, the steering committee will have its first meeting, and all of our meetings will be open to the public, but we do have the lead contractor that DOTD has selected coming to present on that model. We want to make sure it's a real viable tool that we can put our projects through. Right now, before, and you all know this probably more than most parishes because you deal so much with the coast, but before you get federal funding, you really have to pay for all of the engineering to prove out a project. We're hoping this model becomes that tool on the front end, so that we can identify what those key projects are, and then whether it's the $1.2 billion coming in through CDBG or mitigation dollars or the various pots of money that are out there. And that's part of the state's intent as well, is to really identify or inventory those projects that really need to happen and then go out and find the funding. And so I'm here just to introduce that to you, see if you have any questions about.
When you say watershed,
Mhm.
you talking about, rainwatershed, the drainage watershed?
Yes, so they're using the FEMA maps, the FEMA the HUC 8s and the HUC 12s, and the state really divides these regions. They're not guaranteeing that the regions stay the same. Again, I think they're walking through this process to see what works the best. And so right now, the Tesh, the Vermilion, and the Marmontel are grouped as one watershed, although you have multiple watersheds within that, and then multiple watersheds within each of those watersheds. So it's just, they use the original, I guess, boundaries came out of the FEMA designations for watersheds. Yes, so, and ABC got really involved in this after the 2016 floods. Guy Cormier was the parish president of St. Martin Parish, and he sat on my board. And, Guy had received mitigation dollars and never really put them towards drainage. And so he set out this whole initiative out of Lafayette to really focus on drainage. And we became the pilot with FEMA. They did a big watershed study. And what they did is, so typically when you collect data, government data, it's by a municipality or a parish or a county. What they did was collect the data as per the watersheds. And in the Marmontel, they did the upper and the lower Marmontel separate. And so you could really look at the structures affected by watershed or the impacts by watershed. And if you look at those three watersheds after 2016, I want to say it was 77% of the structures had less than 1 foot of water. So in all of our initiatives, we can never fix 2016, but can we lower the floodplain throughout those watersheds by 1 foot? Very possibly. Again, you all do much more water management, I think, than has been traditionally done in the parishes further north.
How can you get the Corps or whomever's responsible for the intercoastal waterway to be dredged? Who, do you know who's responsible for that intercoastal waterway? Or is
I would think it's the Corps. So what we're doing with the Corps, I was in a meeting once and I said, oh, we're gonna get the Corps. And then I said, I can't commit to that. But we are working very closely with the Corps. We've met with their modelers.
what our problem is over here, I feel, my own opinion, is that the intercoastal waterway has filled in and it needs to be dredged. Marine traffic will not stop on that intercoastal waterway.
Right.
And so I feel like what they're doing is they hold in more water. And that affects our parish. And you take that section of intercoastal from the Calcasieu locks going east. That's a big amount of water. And everybody drains on Cameron Parish.
Right.
And right through the middle of our parish, here runs the intercoastal waterway. Okay? If the Corps don't, or somebody don't come and dredge that intercoastal out, what those people do to keep that marine traffic flowing is they raise the water level. Well, that has no bearing on nobody but Cameron Parish. Or the parishes that intercoastal waterway runs through.
Right. So that's one of the very strong themes that consistently comes from Vermilion parishes. We have to start from the bottom up. But I will say this, I can't, so the Corps is the Corps, right? But what we are doing is building these models. And in a way to where we can feed those situations into the model and come up with viable solutions. And all I can say is, the Corps, of course, they're very, they will meet with us, they will talk with us, I'm sure with you guys too, but it's always a funding issue. Where are they gonna get the funding and
Well, everything about money.
Right, and so all I can say is that and that model won't be ready. They're saying 2 years, I'm thinking 3, maybe 4 years. It's a very large, complex model, and it's gotta be able to work so that you can look at the whole system. You can look at what's happening upstream, you can look at what's happening downstream. So it should be, I'm gonna say it should be, DOTD is the one who's really managing these contracts and the scope of these models, but it should be something that we should be able to feed that situation into and really show the impacts and maybe potentially come up with the solutions. And then it's a matter of going to get the funding.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Are you gonna be working with the local drainage boards on this? And are their permits and projects gonna be affected by you guys? Are you gonna have to sign off on them?
As of today, no. Except for, I will say what the point of the steering committee will be is to set up a coalition. And those coalitions have to factor all of the voices in drainage. So what that's gonna look like, I'm not sure at this time. We have a lot of strong skill sets. Each parish was asked to send one person to the steering committee. So we have Scooter Trosclair, we have Ralph Liberstat, we have a floodplain manager out of Lafayette. We have a lot of strong skill sets. So what does it look like to coordinate with those levee boards or the local drainage boards? And those questions are the things we have to work through, or the coalition is gonna have to work through, the steering committee, those groups. We don't necessarily have the expertise to answer that question to you, but we're hoping that's what the steering committee can do, is really look at the whole region and devise a way so that all of the voices making drainage decisions or water management decisions it's a mindset shift we all have to come into. And again, I'm saying this to you, and I know we're standing right here on the edge of the state. So you have more knowledge and you have more capacity, but when you get into the inland waterways, there really hasn't been a whole lot of management or funding for that matter. Yes, well, it is affecting you, certainly. And so, we have to look at that whole upstream and downstream impact. And that's one thing I know Vermilion Parish kicks back a lot to Lafayette. They get real uncomfortable with what's happening there, but they have no control. So can we put some triggers in place that once you understand the full upstream, downstream impacts, your decision, we can make data-driven decisions, rather than.
It's the same way over here. I mean,
yeah.
Everybody dumps, or everything drains from Couch Shoe, there's a big part of that Mermentau that goes way up towards Lafayette over there. It all comes down and drains through Cameron Parish.
Yeah. So that.
But what's bad is that water in the intercoastal level, if you raise it 9 or a foot in height, it has no bearing on Lafayette.
Right.
But it has all the bearing on Cameron Parish.
But you see, they can do a project today without even really measuring that, without even really understanding that. What we're hoping is with these models in place, I mean, it's going to be a big model. Those projects will have to go through those models so that the full impact is understood. Definitely to use the money the state is controlling. Every pot of money has different triggers, but we're hoping to put those triggers in. So when we spend infrastructure money, when we spend detention or retention money, we're understanding the impacts and we're not creating more problems than not. I mean, that's one of the stories I've used before is we elect a mayor and we say fix drainage, and in 2 years, if it's not fixed, it's his fault, he owns it. And so he hires an engineer and says, fix my drainage. Well, the problem's in the next parish, and he has no legal authority or ability to do anything about it. So they create a fix right here, which causes a problem here and here. That's the situation we're in today, is we're not communicating the water situation in our financial decisions. And so
these models what they're gonna do is set letting Calcasieu do a project and dump on us, they're gonna have to look at this model
Mhm.
before they can do their project in Calcasieu Parish to see how it's gonna affect Cameron Parish coming down on us.
Mhm.
So this is what this is supposed to be doing.
That's the intent. And certainly the state can control the funds coming through the state. You know, can we come up with a self-governing coalition that maybe, you know, we all put agreements in that we will make those considerations. We have one of the regions, I think the state is watching the closest because we have more collaboration than a lot of the other regions. I mean, it's not perfect here, but in some of the other regions, they really don't like each other and they don't care. Very, it's very dysfunctional. Here, we have a good, I think we have good leadership in our region that is willing to come to the table and talk. Everybody's in that same boat, you know, you have the pressures to fix your problems, you know, and really, do you have the resources to measure the full impact? Not really. Most jurisdictions don't have those kinds of engineering resources. So if the state puts this science in place, the intent is to really have a tool that can be used so that we can start making more comprehensive, data-driven decisions.
Okay. One more.
Mhm.
One more.
Yes.
I have a lot of them, I'm gonna ask this last one. I heard you did not mention Calcasieu, is that gonna stay in the MCAL?
Yes, that's gonna stay under MCAL. So the Acadiana Planning Commission is not gonna take on, we have 7 parishes. We're not gonna take more parishes into our planning commission, but we will become the planning, the technical staff for this Region 5. I think Calcasieu Parish itself is the applicant for
Region 4.
Region 4, yes. And so
Such as,
So it leads to my, the second part.
you're in
of the
both,
question.
yeah, we're in both.
you're in both.
Watershed.
It leads to my second part of the question. Is this gonna be, are we gonna be in competition with MCAL and Calcasieu, Basin for the other stuff we're gonna be doing?
I don't think so. We have met, because Calcasieu splits regions as well, so they're in our region too, and we've met with them. We've been in this conversation for 3 years now, and we actually have a very collaborative work relationship right now. I mean, you know, we've told them anything they need as far as documents or, you know, if they want to know some of the things we've done that have worked well, we are working closely with them. When it comes to state funding, yeah, so there's going to be, the first round of funding is coming out right now. They're calling it round 1, and it's $100 million. You do need to know this. I should have mentioned it, I'm sorry. 60 of that will be up for grabs from anybody across the state. And then 40 will be split evenly amongst these regions. But what they're asking for is a pre-app. So if you got projects, and I know Scooter has projects, I think it's about a 2-page, it's a pretty simple pre-app that they kind of want an inventory of what's out there, and then they're gonna look at it, and they have CBDG funding coming through HUD, this 1.2 billion. So not everything's gonna fit it, but if it fits it, then they're gonna walk you through technical assistance to take it to the next level. That way you're not really having to develop out the full engineering to make an application. You give them kind of a prelim of what the intent is, they see if it fits. If it doesn't fit, they're gonna look to other pots of money. They have GOSEP, OCD, DOTD, Wildlife and Fisheries, and CPRA on this Louisiana Watershed Initiative. So all of the funding pots that those agencies control, they're gonna be trying to, if it's a project that, you know, proves out, and they're really looking for those projects that do no harm. That's what they're saying. They're not likely going to fund big infrastructure projects without those models. I say that, and again, you know, I don't control the state, but like retention, detention, I think those safe projects is what they're looking for in that first 100 million. That will buy some time, I think, for the models to get going. They've contracted 4 regions for modeling. The other regions, I think they've started that RFP process, but they've already awarded, and now they're working on scope. But you know, the scope can take a long time, and they don't actually have the funding from the feds yet. So so that's kind of what's happening there. If you do have projects, you know, that preliminary process, that technical assistance process that needs to happen, you know, in the now. That's happening now. I think the deadline, the final deadline for those are in March, but they're wanting to see those projects now so that you're not doing more work than you have to, and they can help guide that in order to fit the funding that they have.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions?
Mr. President, can I add something about MCAL as an executive committee member of MCAL
Go
to
ahead.
address? So the question about MCAL and being in competition, so I sit on the executive committee for MCAL, and our full board and the executive committee has discussed that MCAL does not have the capacity to oversee something of this magnitude. Wes Crane, who's in Jimmy Vickers' position in Calhoun Parish Planning and Development, mentioned at one of our MCAL meetings, because Wes is the chairman of the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. I'll be the chair of MCAL for 2020, and that should not be a concern. MCAL does not have the staff, nor does it have the capacity to administer the oversight of the watershed program.
Okay, well, my question kind of goes into the Wetlands Act that we have now, that we have to go into competition with other regions, other parishes to get things funded. I wanted to know if this was going to be handled the same way. Are we going to be in competition with MCAL, with your group, with Group from the East for funding again, or is this going to be more of a set funding per region?
Well, that's the 1.2 billion that Monique was talking about, and I want to answer, but in terms of competition for the projects, my understanding of this, and the reason why I agreed to be the chairman of MCAL for 2020, is that Cameron Parish drains 9 civil parishes. And if those 9 civil parishes are not communicating with who drains those 9 civil parishes, which is what this process is supposed to create, a situation where those parishes that we're draining are getting approval running through this model so that everybody understands what kind of impact it's going to have on us. In terms of competition for project dollars to be awarded, that should go away almost completely because of the fact that this coalition, this watershed initiative is being led all the way from DC to here in Cameron. It's a matter of people communicating about those projects like Scooter so that everybody understands what the impact on Cameron will be. So we'd be competing as a watershed rather than Cameron versus Calcasieu versus Jeff Davis versus Allen, if I understand what they're telling
We'll
us.
see that when that day comes, when they ain't all dumping on us and not giving us no money to clear stuff up down here.
I would think you actually are in a better position by being in 2 regions, because you can leverage them together. You know, you can take the same projects in both, possibly. I mean, we'll see. I will say this.
Both of them abused on us.
Yeah.
Right, and I could probably, Mr. Sonny, I can probably answer your question and kind of provide a little bit of clarification, because I think we got a little too into the weeds with this speech.
Yeah.
Thank you for the information, though. We appreciate it, but we are in 2 different watershed regions. They're going to represent the Cameron Parish on the side of the, pretty much, what is it, Mermentol, further east. They're going to represent our interests there. Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, which you already authorized to go into an agreement with Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, they're going to represent our interests for anything west of the Mermentol River. So this is just another step. You've already done this with Calcasieu Parish for that region. To answer your question, Mr. Sonny, it is competitive based. It always is, if it's state funds or federal funds. Now, they can't tell us what to do with our local money. We want to do a project right now. We still can do our project. We have to apply for a permit, but if we're using our money, we can spend it the way we want as of right now. That won't affect this or impact our decision making locally or with our drainage districts. It's only if we are applying for state or federal money through those funds that she mentioned. So we have Scooter appointed to represent us for their region. We have Miles appointed for the other region for Calcasieu Parish. And actually, Kara just left 2 days ago. She and Scooter both attended that technical assistance session that she mentioned. They have an application. They've been working on the pre-application for the last 3 weeks. They have a project that they're submitting that's supposed to qualify and make sure it hits all the different triggers. We are, when's the application due, the 20th?
20th.
December 20th. So she's gonna submit the pre-application in conjunction with Scooter by the 20th. And then in January, if we're invited to submit the full application, we will come back in January and let you know that we were invited to submit the full application, and we'll start doing all the plans and application process at that point.
I will say that the project, and I believe it's the same project that Scooter is putting forward, Vermillion Parish submitted in one of our initiatives 2 years ago. It did not get funded, but it has impacts all the way up from Cameron all the way up to Evangeline, I think. And our board, which is made up of 7 parishes, actually passed a resolution of support on behalf of that project. So that when it goes forward, I mean, it's another letter of support from our region saying this is a good project because it does have impacts. And those are the projects we're looking to fund, is those big regional impacts, which is probably most of your issues here.
Okay, you're from the Acadiana Planning Commission?
Yes, sir.
You're the CEO?
Yes, sir.
It doesn't mention nothing in none of this agreement right here, period, about MCAL. Nothing.
Well, it's a different watershed region.
But you're representing the lower area. Because you only represent Acadiana, Evangeline, Iberia, Lafayette, same water,
So
same land.
for the planning commission, yes. That is our planning commission area, like MCAL's planning commission area, right? But we also represent the MPO, which is only 6 parishes, and then we represent 9 parish opportunity zone initiative. I guess our staff is flexible. Let me put it like that. The decision-making body around watershed will include all 16 parishes, always. My board will never have a say on which projects are funded out of this watershed initiative. We did vote to support that one because Acadia sits at our table, and Vermillion and Evangeline, and they all wanted to see that project funded. So from that perspective,
Do you have a website?
we do.
Can we pose questions on the website if necessary?
Yes, so I don't know if it's set up right now, but
Well,
Yes.
this could go on for 2
Yeah.
days.
yes.
I mean,
Yeah, this is,
And Kara's working.
this is only, this is part of the Louisiana Watershed Initiative. So part of the process for each region, we're in Region 4 and 5. Region 5, APC will be the physical agent to administer this program. The steering committee will stand up the program, make the decisions, the policies, going forth. They are just the physical agent. That is all they are.
Okay.
So I wanted to bring her here today to introduce herself and who APC is and that. So,
Yes, and if you
and
want,
Region 4 is Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. They will be the physical agent.
I can come back for a special session or Q&A on this anytime. I mean, we can spend more time.
All right, thank you very much. Everybody get their agendas?
I do have one question for Mary Beth.
Go ahead.
Fine, let me get back up here. It's all over the board here.
Yeah, it goes all
Pertaining that permit for the GIWW berm, what is this about? They want for lack of qualifications.
Yeah, request for qualifications. This was for the disaster-related HMG funds from the August 16 floods that was applied for. So this is going to be the first phase for the feasibility study and the scope of work.
I just got back here. I know it's just for the engineering and designs, but why are they calling it GIWW berm?
Because that's what we named the project in the project application that was
Yeah.
submitted
10
10 or 11 months ago. It's on the intercoastal though, and it's just to restore the levee that separates the intercoastal from the south of the intercoastal, to keep that sheet flow that tops the levee and then comes all the way through down to Creon Grand Engineer. It's to model, it's to do all the feasibility studies to see if we restore that berm, if it'll help block some of that sheet flow, and then the water will be directed out through the intercoastal and keep it.
That's the whole problem with the whole thing. Until they dredge that intercoastal out, they can't block that water off. That water is gonna go through that Creole watershed, and has no other option but to go. But Miami feels like they can keep it off with a berm, they can't. They need to spend the money dredging in the coastal, then the whole system stays there. And you ain't gotta worry about building berm.
And hopefully this funding source, if we do all the, we get an engineer in place and they do all the modeling, the feasibility studies and develop the scope of work. And if that's what comes out of all their modeling, that restoring the berm's not gonna do anything, you need to dredge, then we'll have that data to turn around and submit for a new project to dredge.
There's no way they'll get the money to do the berm, I can tell you, and it ain't gonna work.
This is just the first step of many to get funding, yes.
All right. Any more questions on the
You
agenda?
just gotta keep up with it, man, down the road, that we ain't using.
Y'all good, Darryl?
Yes, sir, we have one add-on, Katie has that add-on.
Add on, and then to change the food truck ordinance to include 4 nonprofits.
We just get, it's already on the agenda, she got to amend the ordinance. So that's not a,
Kara has.
Yeah, we got it.
we
We
just
got
changed
it,
the
yes.
ordinance. So we're good.
Y'all good? Kate, you good? Everybody good? Everybody good? Meeting adjourned.